Okay, I see the number. Okay, sorry, my bad.
Oh my God.
That's podcasting, folks.
Welcome to the Wrong Indian Podcast.
Native Americans of all trades, masters of none.
What does that mean? Oh, we have a lot to say. We are not the experts.
But we talk to the experts on a variety of issues.
I'm Brittany Schulman.
Kenrick Escalante.
This is the
Wrong Indian Podcast.
Welcome back to Season 3, Episode 1 of the Wrong Indian Podcast. If you watch our special episodes, you know that this little situation has changed here. I'm Brittany Schulman, and I'm going to pass it right down there if you're watching YouTube. If you're not watching YouTube, just keep listening. It's okay.
Hey everybody, it's me, Honeybee Marie. I am excited to be here, and we're full swing.
Yep. All right, my turn, I guess. Yeah, how's everyone doing out there? It's Jonathan Nez. Just kidding, no. It's John Crank, aka Panic with John. And I'm going to skip my clans and just say, hello, welcome.
It's coming
already.
Roman Thief. Kenrick Escalante, very happy to be here on Season 3 and be happy with our new team. We have a new year, new season, and we'd like to welcome you.
Right. And now we have also a new segment called Today in Indian Country. And in this segment, we're talking about some wonderful things. I'm going to turn it away to John, which I look in the wrong direction.
You're like, which screen do I look at?
Where are you, John?
Yeah, so today in Indian Country, we're going to be covering we're going to be talking about the Capitol riots, the impeachment, and some of our favorite Bernie memes, which I made into a video. And we'll look at the meme video the meme video until like way later. But so first off, what do you guys think about, actually, I forgot to say, we're also going to cover the new administration. I'm sorry about that. I forgot to add that in.
All good.
Yeah, I have all of those things like all inside my brain.
I'll tell you what. Let me sum it all up for you. It seems like a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the insurrection. The insurrection for me seemed like you were surprised, but you weren't surprised. One of those things.
Exactly.
I tell you what, though, it was interesting for me because I was able to watch it live with my daughters, and my daughters were able to interact in a way that I wasn't even prepared for. To be honest with you, because in my head, I'm going, if that was us, it would be so much different. Or if it was people of color, it would be so much different. In my head, I'm thinking these things, but my daughters, they literally tell me that. They're like, Dad, if those were natives out there fighting for water, we would be shot. And if this was a Black Lives Matter movement, people would have been shot. And I was blown away, but I was blown away by the grownness of my own kids. I was just like, what? Like, yeah.
And what a way to find out that the police can police a riot without killing people. That was like, that's interesting.
I don't think it was so much policing. It looked like they were chaperoning.
Yeah, then that's what literally happened.
Yeah,
you got some of them taking pictures with them and just being friendly with them, and you're just like, what is going on? Like, where did this, protecting,
waving them in?
Yeah, they're like, come join us.
Here you go, friends. No way to get in.
Oh, is this in your way?
I've never been to the Capitol. There are 13 different levels of security to get in the door. It's not quite that much, but there's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. It isn't like you just walk in. It's not like your local library where you walk in and go through the metal detector. Just my library? Okay. But anyway, there's lots of different levels of security. So to watching, and I stumbled on the video by accident where they were busting the window in. I was like, how are y'all there? And then, how are y'all there? And how did that happen? And it just was Yeah.
Well, and the same people showed us that walls don't work.
Yeah.
Look, man, I'm sorry.
Walls are ineffective.
There's more security at my IHS clinic than what we witnessed. Seriously.
There's more security at my local library and the Walmart.
Yeah.
Spam is taking care of more in Hawaii than at the Capitol.
Yeah.
Spam's a big deal.
So, I mean, that has passed, and obviously what became of that, you know, there's arrests now and people are being prosecuted, and the former, I will repeat, the former president in chief.
I need a round of applause. Sorry. Am I too excited? I apologize.
I mean, now the former president is the only president in history who has been impeached twice.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so
We're all living in
Not
that.
convicted, just impeached.
yeah.
Or maybe convicted by this point. I don't know.
Yeah, the process is going to begin in February, so we'll see what happens. But now I think the coolest thing is that we got to see a transition of power. We got to see an inauguration, guys. What do you guys think of that?
Let me just say this. And this is not even the inauguration. This is the post-inauguration. It has been, I don't know what the news is covering anymore because I was really, the real big thing for me looking forward to the new administration was I just didn't want to know it existed for a few days. I mean, it was I was at my grandparents' house way a while back. My grandfather, he likes to watch MSNBC like from morning to noon, and I don't know why they like breaking news all day long. It's like, and I don't remember which debacle thing that it was happening, but it was all day long, and I was like, my gosh, I'm so tired and over this. Why? How are you watching this? Can't we put on Andy Griffith, Grandpa?
Yeah.
But that's what I in these last few days have been like. This is nice.
You know what? The inauguration was really dope and like cool. But I mean, it was unfortunate because, you know, everyone had to be home. You know, no one was really allowed to be there. But you know what's funny? Am I the only one who thought Lady Gaga was like so like pure Hunger Games?
Yeah, I saw that. People were making memes of her and calling her like the Hunger Games, or like the new Hunger Games movie is lit or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like literally when she came out, and you know, my girls they're not really into Hunger Games, so like when she came out, I was all all going like this, and they're like, doing it. I was like, Hunger Games, man, yeah.
How do you do that whistle? That burr, beep, beep, burr. I don't know how to do it with my whistle.
Another song. I can't remember the song right now, but that was a little fun, fascinating fact. No, I was impressed with the tribal chairman, Garth Brooks.
Oh my God, wasn't he
amazing? And COVID hugs at the end. I was like, dude, put your mask on.
Dude, he was high-fiving people
and hugging them and stuff.
Oh my God.
Honestly, I will say though, I was like very surprised to see him there.
You know, he made it a point. You know, he was saying leading up to it, like, look, I'm probably going to be the only Republican there, and you know what? I'm doing it because I want to show unity. You know, so I really respected him for it. You know, and whatever backlash he's getting, you know, that's just, you know, shame on them.
Yeah, and I thought that was like a very nice message that he put out there, and it showed, you know, maturity. You know, and like both sides can get together.
I love
maturity in the new administration. Oh my goodness!
Oh, yeah. It's like such a nice breath of fresh air, and it's also nice to have like a new president who like includes everybody except himself, you know, or but himself, I guess I should say. Yeah.
I just love that Garth Brooks rushed in there like a bull in a china shop. I mean, like the doors just swinged open and he was all oh my God, I loved it. Imagine, I felt very nostalgic. Like 1990.
Well, he did show up.
I mean, J-Lo.
Have y'all been seeing the songs that have now come out based off of This Land Is Your Land? How are y'all feeling about that?
You know, I've been saying, like, my entire life, I've always kind of like sang that song, you know, in a way. like that all my life, just being defiant. I always be like, this land was my land, you took my land. Like I always said that as a kid, like, you know.
Like, this land is my land. This land is mostly your land, you know. I don't really get a say in it, but that's okay, you know.
I was more, you know, like I get it. I get what Indian country was saying, and I understand why they were upset about it.
I also thought it was poignant that she's saying this land is your land as a Puerto Rican, because, you know, they're not Americans.
Yeah.
Insert sarcasm face here.
I was more impressed with the fact that she was mashing up the song. The fact that she like matched up her own, like, let's get loud into it. I'm like, really, J-Lo? Is that what you're doing? And during the inauguration?
Yes, because it's Chuck. Hello.
I guess so. I
was waiting for a come on the floor. I'm just saying.
I would have loved that.
Would have been legendary.
More importantly, I think the biggest thing we got out of the inauguration was our dear old Uncle Bernie.
Uncle Bernie.
Yeah. Wait. I had another question. Sorry. So Kenrick, remember you live in Washington, D.C., right?
Do I?
Do you? I'm just kidding.
Why are you putting my business out there? Yeah. Yes, I do.
My bad. So anyways, I was wondering, that night, were you able to hear like the fireworks going off and things?
Yeah.
How was that?
We could hear them. It's very loud. But, you know, unfortunately, we weren't allowed to be out there. We couldn't. The closest thing we got to being there was we were able to drive down toward the Capitol, but we couldn't park. So we saw the thousands of like police officers from all over the, you know, Maryland, Virginia, DC, and then we got to see all of the reserves, you know, all the men and women out there who were protecting the Capitol, all the way from the Capitol, all the way through the mall. So it's basically from the Capitol building all the way to Lincoln Memorial, which is just, you know, it's a huge couple miles and all fenced, all covered with these reservists. And yeah, it was quite something to see, but you know, it's sad that it had to come to that, you know?
Yeah, totally.
You're not going to ask me about my fireworks in my neighborhood? Because they were great.
Yeah, fireworks.
My bad.
It doesn't count if it's every weekend.
Fireworks for every single event. So like a random Tuesday, there will be fireworks and it's beautiful.
But yeah, the fireworks were amazing. I mean, they were huge. I mean, yeah.
Was it scary?
No.
Okay, because I looked at the TV screen, I was watching it that night, and it just looked like, you know, like stuff, like bombs going off, I guess, or something.
I mean, I will take a moment to have just my own personal plug. I thought it was brilliant that my tribe was able to open the inauguration ceremonies. They had it open for a couple of days leading in, and on Sunday, Congresswoman Deb Haaland was able to introduce my tribe's singers and dancers, and we kind of gave a statement and a blessing, and we were able to open up you know, all of this inauguration stuff, and I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, totally. Okay.
But anyway, back to what I was trying to say before. I mean, the best thing we got out of the inauguration was Uncle Bernie, right?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. I love Uncle Bernie.
It's like Grandpa Bernie to me, but okay.
No, I think he'll always just be an uncle.
No, it's Che Bernie.
Che.
So John put together a video, and I'm just going to hope that YouTube doesn't try to be a video bully and try to take it down. But yeah, let's see what Uncle Bernie was up to.
I am once again asking for your financial support, as I think...
Wow.
Hey, Che.
Oh my gosh.
There's your Andy Griffith.
Yep.
What is amazing to me is how smoothly he fit into each one of those scenarios.
Yeah.
And for our non-YouTubers out there, John put a amazing little video here showing all those Bernie memes. I mean, I'm sorry, my favorite one's Cobra Kai.
It's a highlight reel because there are thousands of more every day that I keep seeing.
I know, right?
But it's because native humor is something else.
Yeah, it truly is.
What?
Yeah, so we do have these mugs for sale. They're coming blue and red. They say native humor is something else because, it is. And you can get yours today from www.brittanyshulman.com/merch. Use the promo code WRONGINDN. That's the word wrong, the letters NDN, and that'll get you 20% off your order. And it will also go to support this podcast. So please make sure you use the code WRONGINDN. Get you some mugs and enjoy your Bernie memes too.
And what's amazing about these mugs? There's no instructions. You don't have to put water or coffee.
You can put something else.
You can put something else in it if you want. And I won't confirm or deny if I have.
Yep.
Okay. Before we go into our next topic, we had the opportunity to interview Navabroisss, Isaac Madson of the TikTok world. This boy is TikTok famous. If you don't know him, I don't know why. Are you living under a rock? But Isaac is Dene, and he lives on the Navajo Nation. And in 2020, he started making TikTok videos, blending cultural tropes with humor. During the summer, though, of 2020, Isaac lost his job, unfortunately, but that made him able to move back to his reservation, and he helped increase the voter turnout in Arizona. As a digital organizer, see that? Oh, man. As a digital organizer at his new, oh, my God, I completely stumbled. I apologize, people. As a digital organizer, I can't say organizer. Oh my God. He's new to social media influencing, but he is getting back to his roots. He is learning his language. He's going back to college, his own Dene college, and he's trying to get fluent back to the Dene language. And we had just a wonderful conversation. So that is Navabroisss with Isaac Madson. Isaac, welcome to the show.
Hey, Shay Isaac Madson here, Toton in Island, Torchini, Bashachin, Kitachini, Dashache, Nakadena, Dashanale. My name is Isaac. I come from the Navajo Reservation, the Navajo Nation. And I'm from Kayenta, Arizona, is where I was, where I grew up. But my family is all from Wheatfields and Lukachika area out here in Arizona. So I'm deep, really close to Canyon de Chelly. And so I have a lot of family around basically the Four Corners area. So that's why I say I'm from the Navajo Nation versus, a specific town. Because I did graduate from Monument Valley High School in Kayenta, Arizona. But, that's not really where my roots are. I still have family there and everything like that. But I live just a small town living in, we don't even have a stoplight. We have a gas station.
I know what you mean, man.
I grew up in a town where you literally just you drove through it, and that was it. It was less than a mile, and the town's done. we had a post office, and then our store, and then you were done. That was it.
Yeah.
we had a mayor or something. I was like, who mayors this?
You guys actually had mayors?
Yeah, that was my next question. Is y'all get mayors?
It was a weird thing,
Right?
I mean,
We have a nation president.
it's like the mayor, and then his wife was the vice, or something. It was dumb.
We get chapter house presidents.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So before we get into the interview, we actually want to get to know you a little better. And we do that through playing a little game called This or That. So we're going to provide you with two choices, and you just tell us which of the two choices you would prefer. Are you ready, Isaac?
Yes. Okay. Let's go in.
First one, live in a world with no privacy or live in a world with no crime.
Live in a world with no crime, because I love my privacy. I think, it's, I do, as a person who, constantly puts, new content out on new media. I get so many personal questions that I'm just like, and so many people want to pry into my personal life that it's really, like setting boundaries is one of those things as, a Native American influencer. Because there's a lot of things like, that are like ceremonial that, we just don't talk about, we don't talk about with others unless they're, kinship. So it's very fascinating that a lot of people, don't, appreciate privacy or setting boundaries. So it's one of those things. And that's one of the things that I've made, my following or my people just really try to respect. And it's really very interesting, the amount of people who find me and just, because I'm Native American, that they need to answer have these questions answered. And I'm just like, no, I'm not just a Native American. I'm Isaac, and I have I have my own personality. You guys are just here for the show, Yeah.
I think we all have that burden. It's crazy. It's like all of a sudden we have to be the encyclopedia of our tribe.
Yeah, not even our tribe. It's like the world, Yeah, it's like, oh, what do you think about these Chilean people in the? I'm like, I've never even thought of them until you mentioned them, and now you want me to be some cultural interpreter for that? Like, no.
Yeah.
No. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I say no makes me anti them is like, you guys are silly. Like, I just don't want to participate in that, that. I mean, that's just, there's people who studied that, and you can read their books. If you spend that time to read your books and form your own opinion about that, maybe it's easier than just finding some random dude on the street, a stranger on the street, and asking them uncomfortable questions about, their personal identity. It's odd. But anyway, I like privacy.
Yeah. And then they get all offended too, huh?
Yeah.
I think people forget that there's this thing called Google. It's free,
Yeah. And it's wacky. It's wacky. It's just wacky. And but the thing is, people assume it's just it's so new. And I'm like, no, this is something you deal with when you leave a reservation and you just all of a sudden you're working at. And then some random, Billigano will ask you all these questions and, settler explain to you about your tribe. And you're like, this is what I got to deal with the rest of my life. You don't assume it until all of a sudden you're 35 with, 200,000 following. You're like, all right, I guess this is just my life now. I don't really know, it's odd. People are odd.
Ain't that the truth? What?
Do you have a question? Yeah.
So mine is, would you rather pick blue corn mush or mutton?
Oh, mutton, dude. I love mutton. I love mutton so much. I just had mutton yesterday. So yeah, dude, I love mutton. Yeah. I mean, blue corn mush, of course, blue corn mush is bomb. And I love it because I love blue corn mush because, it's for me, it always reminds me of when we're around family. So it's anytime you're around our family, we'll be around, blue corn mush will be served for whether it's a ceremony or whether it's a graduation or a birthday or something. So that's
some sort of gathering.
So it's its own thing versus mutton. You go to the flea market and you're like, oh, yeah, you can ribs. Let me get some, let me get that tortilla with, some chili and, just, some ribs and stuff like that. And mutton stew is just bomb. And you can put whatever vegetables in it and get it all greasy, and it's just
can great. Get it all over your face.
Yeah.
Well, that makes you snackable, eh?
And now I'm hungry.
and I used to work at flea markets. That was growing up. I mean, we're if you're native, you hustle. You have to there's no jobs around. So if you're not out there just hustling, selling food or bootlegging CDs or selling your clothes that you doing what you can to because there's no there's not a Walmart for 90 miles away from where I grew up right and that's oh, I'm gonna take 3 hours to go do something, and it's so you have to try and blend it everything. So mutton does remind me of like those flea markets and those stands that you're at, and you're just smelling it, getting roasted and stuff. And you're just like, so it's a really big treat. And the thing is, like, when you leave the reservation and when you leave the Four Corners area, like you realize like it's hard to get. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and living amongst these people, and there's like venison and like, like freshwater trout and blah, 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 blah. And then like all these really fancy restaurants, but like you try to get mutton and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, we have lamb. We have lamb. Like I was like, no, I don't want a baby sheep. I want like a full grown fatty, like wool, just, like I want to eat that. And it's just like, and people were like, I don't understand this. Like, I like eating baby sheep.
I want that. I don't want any sheep. I want it grown.
Yeah. I want to feel the tenderness.
Exactly.
For the record, I do like freshwater trout, by the way. I'm just putting it out there.
I'm not saying I don't. I'm saying they have all these nice things available and all these like different specific, foods. But when you like ask for something that's, your cultural delicacy, you looked at weird or odd and stuff. And I'm like, oh no, da, da, da. So it's funny. And I don't know. I also like, I was telling one of my homies, because I was in Peru, and like when you taste like guinea pig, it tastes exactly like sheep.
You can eat guinea pig?
It tastes exactly like sheep. I never knew that. Yeah.
What's a delicacy in Peru?
I didn't realize that. I had guinea pig in Peru too. Wait. Yeah.
That's what my guinea pig looked like.
I also had it at like a really fancy restaurant. I wasn't just like, I guess we'll eat that.
I had mine on the street too.
We'll eat Hector today. We ate Daisy like last week, so let's do it.
Yep. So, guinea pig talk aside, my question is: summer or winter?
I really love winter. I've always been, a snowboarder. I haven't always been a snowboarder. So I started, I stopped drinking about 6 years ago. I was living in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And one of the things that like really helped me out, was concentrating on getting better at snowboarding. So I went out and I was like, okay, like my goal is to get 50 days on the mountain. Like that's my goal. So, and I wasn't, I was able to do like green and blue runs, which are like medium. So I was like, medium. So I'd never done a black run. So like by the end of like my 50 days, like I was doing like walking backcountry, black runs. So I can do like double black diamonds. And right now I'm just comfortable going down any mountain. So, and I've always worked at ski resorts and snowboard resorts as well, ski resorts. So I worked at in Cedar City, Utah. So there's a town called Bryan Head, Utah. Mm-hmm. Bryan Head is in southern Utah, and it's like the highest point in like Utah. But even it's in southern Utah, so it's like a small resort. And so I worked there, and I worked there for years, and that's when I learned to ski and snowboard. I just, that's where I started. I started working in the daycare because I used to work for the Boys and Girls Club for a long time, and like I never knew how to like snowboard or ski. They were just like put the kids on their skis and like just put them on and like make them do pizza and French fries and stuff. And that's, I did. And then like eventually like, all my homies, like that's why I got really, so I was like always friends with all the foreigners. Like that was my thing. Like any foreign student, like I'd be their homie or like whatever, just because it's the same thing where you just make fun of the Billiganas and you're just like, cause they understood like, like I'm from a different area. And they're like, I think we just both thought like, we both felt that uncomfortableness of being exotic. And so, so it was like, we just chilled. So that's why, when I went to Argentina, like I just went there to see my homies and like same thing. Like I have a bunch of friends who are from the Philippines. I have a lot of friends from, Ireland and stuff. So like a lot of these people that I've met, and a lot of them I met because they were doing like, for, in Argentina and the Southern Hemisphere, it's, reverse. So it's like their summers are our winters. And so during the winter, they would come up and work at the ski resort. So that's how I got to be friends with so many like RGs. And so, like all of them are all my homies and stuff. And so they're the ones who taught me to ski. So they were like, let's go. And like, it's fun. I'm like, no. That's just going down the mountain. Like really, like, it's silly. You're just standing. And then like, eventually I got into it. So I love winter. Cause also like with being Dene, we can tell our stories. We can tell our creation stories. We can do that. And I'm traditional as, I speak English, but like, colonization and racism, basically my grandparents were like, oh, you guys better learn English because my grandparents, fought in the war and they were dorm maids, and not only that, but like, they survived, tuberculosis and all these other diseases, and understood, the importance of like the Indian Health Service and all this stuff. So it's like, so for me, I've just been able to see this, duality and be able to understand, like, hearing my creation stories in English and being able to like, cause like my family, we're, they're weavers and stuff, and they're like, so a lot of everything, like, medicine men and herbalists and whatnot. So I've always been surrounded by it, and it's always been explained to me in English. And when I pray to holy people, it is all done, in English and stuff. So everything that I've been explained to is like, so, like, which is, I don't know, like people don't understand how like, that, mentality is there, where it's like, oh, your traditions are still there, even though it was explained in another language. And that's why for me, getting fluent in Dene, like I can speak my clans, but like, as soon as somebody asks me something in Navajo really fast, I'm like, I'm just a deer in headlights, and I panic, and I'm like, oh,
translate a little bit.
Yeah. Like I'll pick up every other word. I know you said in there.
You have to pick out the vowels and everything.
Exactly.
Oh, I heard Yadala. Okay.
Yeah. I heard you say weakest a lot.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. So I mean, that's why I love winters, because like we get to like be a part of our, like those old stories, and it's reminding us, as Indigenous people, that we've been here since the beginning of time. Like these stories and like these ideas, these foreign ideas that have been brought here from other continents are foreign ideas. And you can see it when I go to Peru and you see like colonization and cathedrals and all these crazy things, but they're like blended next to like the Incan ruins and stuff. And you're just like, that is weird. Like, you can see it. You can see how like it was forced and everything like that. And as I moved, came back, like and learning more about the history and like kind of like just learning like, like the Pueblo revolt and everything, and how like, the Spaniard, like a lot of the colonization that happened, in the Southwest has been because of, the Spaniards. Yeah. And so a lot of people assume that, like it's all the U.S. government, but they don't realize, like how much of like the Spaniard, colonial system was input. And it's like how many like, these rules and everything that we're supposed to believe in, so much things. So it's like, so I feel very fortunate anytime like winter's around. I mean, granted, I love summer because you can just do anything. Like there's so much fun things going on during summer, and it's always summer break when you're a kid. But like being able to like be winter, and you're just like, I still celebrate Christmas. Like I love Christmas. It's fun. Like I enjoy it. Like the Super Bowl is fun, and that's during winter. And like all these, like there's some really good times. And so it's like it's about snowboarding for me, and it's about hearing my creation stories. That's why I love those too.
What's crazy is like, you made me think about it. Maybe remember back, like me and Brittany, we actually went to Peru together. And I remember being in Cusco, and my mind was blown because someone like literally showed me like, look at the foundation. If you look at the lower part, you can see what was the original inhabitants, but then you can see the second part of when, the colonizers came and built above it. And you're just like, it's a mind blow, because you're just like, there it is in real, like physical form. You can see like colonizers coming in and assimilating a town, a country, and like, and people wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah.
People just see a beautiful place full of gold, right?
Yeah. It was really cool because I got to like my hosts were Quechuan. So like, so they were really good about explaining like, just small details, like, like don't give these, like you see these people, like they have llamas out here. Like llamas don't, like, they're not used to walking on these cobblestones. Like these children out here selling these things, like they're not getting educated. Like you guys buying these things from them is forcing them to work more. And so it's like creating like an economy that holds us back. And it's like, that is so like cool and neat. And like, and like this, like, and at the same time, there was an election happening when I was down there. And so what was explained to me was that, they were like, they had symbols. So for them, they use symbols. So a lot of them can't read and a lot of them aren't, literate and stuff like that. But they are encouraged to participate in their democracy. And so it's very neat to kind of like go there and see all that and just kind of see like, we're very fortunate. As much as I grew up on a reservation, like being like, oh man, like, cause I do like, I've been told like, oh, congratulations, or like, like really like people have told me really awkward things for like not being on the reservation anymore. After I left the reservation, people told me really uncomfortable things because I grew up on a reservation. I'm just like, no, like, and that's why I get so upset and why I get so like into like, trying to avoid, that victimization that is always at the forefront of our, story. It's always like tragedy that we exist, like everything is like that versus like, like where I grew up, like, I never knew. I didn't know until like I was an adult. And then I wasn't like, the more people talked down to me was like that. Like I was always surrounded by, people who look like me, people who talk like me. And so seeing like, natives in media, like I always sought it out, like I always made sure I was finding an Irene Bedard movie. I was always making sure, like all these things were important to me. And like, like I was able to concentrate. And I always, like stuff like, North of 60, like we would pass around VHS tapes from somebody who had that on, who had a satellite. She was able to record it and stuff like that. And so like, that's how important, like, so when people say like representation, like that's what I think of representation matters. Like, it's not about tokenization of like just putting a bunch of like people with feathers and beads at the, at the front line to like say like, oh, we have Native American support. It's like, no, man, like I want to see people that I grew up with, like those uncles and everything like that. And yeah, so it's very, to see this representation and having that, indigeneity and having these people in like, as small as like Peru, where it's just like they want them all to participate and really kind of say like, we want our kids to be in school so we can advance our society, not just so you guys can have some place fun to come visit and take a bunch of, pictures with your yoga poses and shit, So it's like, yeah, like I feel very fortunate that I was able to grow up with like, my family because they're, they are teachers and they are, but like you grow up on the res. I mean, like, there's it's still the res, like, unless, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard to not talk about that stuff. And it's hard not to be like, yeah, that's my family. And those things do happen and those things have happened, but you know what I mean? Like that's where the whole idea of setting boundaries and, privacy, where it's like, these are things that I hold that are also secrets of other people. It's not just mine. So I can't just give it away and stuff. So. Right.
Okay, and our value is less economic and it's more cultural. And that growing up, you don't know you're poor until someone points it out.
Yeah.
Because you're with your mom and your dad. When our lights went out, it was, a fun little, let's make a tent in the living room. And
yeah, y'all sit around the fire and like, right. Oh, all we can afford is hot dogs because we got to save some money to get those lights back on and everything like that. But it's like, but the thing is like, it wasn't just me. Like that was my best friend, who like lived like on the other side of, the barbed wire fence that we had and living in a trailer with like, tires on top of them. There was like, 3 sisters sharing the same room. So it was like, it was like, for me, like it was just always around. And those are always the people that I always surrounded myself with, where people like, my friends were from Navajo Mountain and, we lived in Kayenta. Navajo Mountain is like, 75 miles away. So they were just staying with one of their relatives so they could go to school. Cause it was, we had a bigger school and a pretty good education system. And I always say I'm very fortunate to grow up here because everybody looks like me, but not only that, but like everybody's kind of growing up with the same like mindset of, like these are cultural values that have been here since the beginning of time. And even those who are, like Mormon, like LDS people, when they come in back and they come back and they, take, their teachers and their school teachers and everything like that, they still understand the duality of like, you know, like they might not believe the same traditions that I believe, but they, you know, have family who do. And so therefore they are really good at, you know, blending those two worlds together a lot easier, you know, and making it a lot easier for us who like aren't used to like that kind of only seeing like our perspective and stuff. So they're able to do that. So I'm very, you know, I always say I'm very fortunate to grow up on the reservation, and people, you know, it's why it's weird to kind of like push that, you know, put that like that's groundbreaking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to transition into my next question, and that's going to be TikTok or Reels.
Oh, TikTok, dude. Like the Reels is like, it's like you literally, it's like, oh, here's music. And I mean, what other options? Like I have a degree in broadcasting and public relations. Oh, nice. So I have so my degree is in communication, but my emphasis is in public relations and broadcasting. So I was working in marketing for a long time. I worked for some TV stations. I've worked for radio stations. I even interned for our local radio station here on the reservation, KTNN, that votes to the Navajo Nation. And so for me, I've had a lot of experience with this stuff. So being able to play with an editing software that is so quick and so responsive is, I love it. It's so, to me, it was just a hobby that just got out of hand. Yeah. Like it got way out of hand. Like I was like, I honestly, like, I was just trying to like, I was like, oh, they're like, I'm going to make this video and it's going to be funny because it's a joke that I thought of. And then I'm like, oh, well, oh, shoot. And then like the first time, like, you know, like the first video I made, like went pretty viral, and it was about like, you know, I blended to like, you know, like this like rap song with a bunch of like cussing and like, you know, Navajo rug and how like people should, you know, stop stealing our culture. And it just got like, I just never seen something like explode so quickly that it's something that I've done. And then just like, and then all of a sudden it was this, at the same time when George Floyd like happened. And so everybody was protesting. And so it really became one of those things where people were like, we were like, you know, everybody was really all about it and stuff. And then it was crazy because that was the first time I've ever experienced like being like the sound was removed and like all my video, like it was like, you know, the term shadow ban or whatever. Like I never knew what that thing was. I just was like, are you kidding me? Like, I was like, this is crazy. Like all these people are adding me. And then all of a sudden, like the video was like reported for like harassment and hate speech and all this stuff. And it was the first time I've had to appeal a video. But what's crazy about that video, that my first one, which was like, I don't even know when this happened. I want to say May. What happened was like, you know, I made another video immediately after that about Native American representation, because a lot of people have never saw a Native person on the For You page. And so that was one of those things where it was like, that was my next video. And it was like, you know, the comment and being able to talk about, you know, like representation matters. And like, you know, I shouldn't, you know, hopefully I'm not the first person that you see on your For You page. And that video also got, you know, like that was one of my bigger videos, like has like 100, I think like almost 200,000 likes on that video. That was one of my earlier first ones and stuff like that. And that's when I really like, it really hit me. Like it hit me hard. Like I was like reading so many comments of like Native kids just like really being really proud to see somebody, you know? And I was just like, oh, I couldn't, I still get emotional just thinking about it. Like I like, you know, like, and Sherry McKay was literally like probably the only other like Native that I saw was like over like 100,000 and stuff like that. And then it was like when she barely got verified or something like that, you know? So a lot of us were in like TikTok and everything and just kind of doing that. But like I started, you know, just kind of making the own things and everything like that. And just, you know, there was like, it was just crazy because I was able to like, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I was able to reach out to Sherry, and she kind of like was like, yeah, just kind of just gave me like, you know, kind of took me under her wing essentially and said like, this is kind of what it's like, you know, like you're going to get a lot of these comments and stuff like that. And just kind of like really was able to, you know, so I have that and everything like that. And so a lot of, that's something that I'm very fortunate to do is like, I say I'm very new to this because I am, you know, like I did not, like I said, it's a hobby that got out of hand. Like, yeah, you know, like,
yeah, I get it. Yeah. I mean, TikTok for me was literally like my daughters just teasing me to get on it.
Yeah.
They're just like, dude, get on it. Let's do some dancing and stuff. And then I did it. And then I was like, wait a second. I do multimedia. And so I realized like, oh, this is actually something I can do and it's fun. And so I got addicted like you. And you know, a big shout out to Sherry too. I mean, when I first got on TikTok, she was one of the first ones to like my account. And she even messaged me too, like, you know, just, you know, keep it up and be consistent. And, you know, welcome to the club is basically what she said. And yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a Sherry McKay follow? Oh my God.
I do.
I know. I made it when that happened.
I feel bad. Because I feel like I haven't given her that shout out that she deserves. But yeah, she's
she's great. She's amazing. And like one of the first videos that I saw, which actually really encouraged me, was because of Sherry McKay's video about her talking about her experience with digital media and how she like used to, you know, she just had experience and just didn't see Native American representation. And that's what that got. Like, I saw that video and I was like, I have a degree in broadcasting. I've literally would spend hours in a studio just, you know, oh, that's not right. And it's still rendering. Damn it. You know, like that was wrong. I got to redo that again and like wait another like day for this all to like blend together. Like, like I was at the beginning, like there was no Adobe Audition when I started. There was like Final Cut. There was no Final Cut Pro. There was like, you know what I mean? Like it was Cool Edit Pro. That's what the software was for Adobe Audition. And so like, you know, a lot of these things, my first class was in 2003 and we still had to learn how to like splice tapes together just in case, you know? And it's like, like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, that's how old I am. But I mean, at the same time, it was like, I had a career like prior to like TikTok and all this stuff. Like I had a career and that was what I was doing. Like I was working in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, working for this company. It was a sports nutrition company that, you know, I was doing events. So I did event coordinating. I would travel around the United States and, you know, I've been to like Boston Marathon. I've been to GoPro games, stuff like that. So it's like, I go to these things and I represent this company and I just hand out samples, but also at the same time, what was happening is I was in charge of getting, you know, media, like shots, like action shots to get like, you know, for their Instagram, for the story, for social media. And then like we have a podcast, so I interview people like that. So I had like a really big, you know, opportunities with this company. But as soon as COVID-19 hit and what happens is most of, you know, the events pretty much were canceled. And, you know, like when you're an event coordinator and you don't have any events to go to, like, they're like, we can't really hang on to you, bro. And I'm like, are you sure? I mean, like, you know, like I worked there for 3 years and it was one of those things where you start in the warehouse and you work you interview for a million jobs and then like, people are like, you never get the job, but like that job was specifically created for me because I was just good at what I do. Cause you know, my experience, like I have a lot of experience just doing a lot of things. Like the reason why, you know, I'm really good at, you know, the whole like event coordinating is because, you know, like I said, I hustled at flea markets and stuff, you know, setting up, tearing down, everything like that. And people aren't used to like having that experience of like work experience. You know, it's crazy. Like people get a degree and then all of a sudden they're in an office. They don't know how to do manual labor. It's weird and funky. And so, yeah, like I worked with so many people who were like, just put that table away.
What?
Okay, now turn it over. Okay, now like like, you know what I mean? I'm just like,
wow.
You know what I mean? I'm just like, damn it. Yeah. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, oh, okay. Like this makes sense. But like, yeah, no, you know, it was a really good experience. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I was really hurt. You know, I'm still kind of bitter toward them. I mean, mostly like the CEO kind of tokenized me, and in a sense of like you said, when George Floyd was happening and all that stuff, they formed this like social justice task force and put me on it. And they didn't put me on it. They like literally called, like the CEO called me because I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, I know I'm gonna get tokenized, and like he called me specifically because they didn't have any people of color on their anti-racism task force. And like, I already had like, you know, experience like giving, you know, speeches and stuff about like Bears Ears and, you know, voter registration and stuff. Cause it's something that I've always been passionate about. And, you know, just have those, having that and just being like, oh man, like it's just wild to kind of like, you know, come here and be like, all right, cool. Like I was doing TikToks and then all of a sudden, like I didn't have a job anymore. And so while I was working this job and then like working from home during the pandemic, and like I'm very fortunate, I'm very fortunate that like it just all worked out and I just kept, rolling with the punches. So, well, like back in July, I was asked by the Rural Utah Project and Natives Outdoors if I'd like to, start posting content about, getting natives registered to vote. And I'm like, I was all about it and everything. So, I started doing, getting a lot of just getting engagement stuff with my videos and about talking about especially like Native history with voting, people don't realize, like, oh yeah, you guys were citizens until 1924, but you weren't allowed to vote until 1948. So really like, that's not us being citizens. That's us being, wardens of the state, we're just animals to these folks. And then like, so it's like, it's been very a battle. And it wasn't until like the 60s until a lot of people within like the United States were able to let Native people in to vote, like that's how like our land is stolen. It's pretty much like suppression of our voices and able to say like, oh no, it's completely fine because I speak for them because they can't speak for themselves. I mean, that's happened with like, the Hopi tribe and the Diné tribe in, Black Mesa, and how, a Billigana man was a lawyer is the one who like spoke for everybody and then just kind of created like this hostile environment between the two tribes when really it was just, them trying to push these, individuals off and like take away land from people for mining. And it's like, no, now that mine isn't even there anymore. Like it's just torn up and they have all these like human remains that they don't know what to do with. And like no tribe wants that stuff because it's against our, beliefs to like do all that stuff. So it's like weird that like, like these big companies are able to do that. And it's funky. And it's like, nobody has this voice. And I was very fortunate to be asked to be a part of that. And as soon as I lost my job, like I posted this thing about like losing my job. And I was like, sad, crying. And within 10 minutes of that post, I got a call from, and asked if I could be, a digital organizer. So I signed a contract to, help make content for, everybody. So like, we'd have meetings with all these other people and stuff. And it was like, and like at that time, I only had 30,000 followers, like on TikTok.
Only 30,000.
It's hard to get 2,000.
I'm at 100.
I mean, I only had 30. Who am I?
Oh man! I want to talk more with you about that, but we do want to finish off our this or that with one of the most controversial this or that's that we pose. So I do want to ask you, my friend, Indian taco or Navajo taco?
Navajo taco. Navajo taco.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
I mean, like, I don't like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, all right. I mean, like, it depends where I am. I mean, if I'm not going to go to another reservation and be like, what is this?
Y'all don't make Navajo tacos right.
I'm like, but if I'm on the res, and like I said, it depends who makes it, like for me, I say Navajo taco and I'm very, because I live on the Navajo reservation, and when I'm going to get a Navajo taco and it's made by a Navajo person, I'm going to call it Navajo taco. Cause I mean, our fry breads all taste different. I mean, people don't realize that, like, because I lived around a lot of Native peoples, so it's not just people just assume like you're Navajo, you're just only know Navajo, and it's like, nah, dude, I lived in Cedar City, Utah, and that was near a Paiute reservation. Like I lived amongst the Shoshone and stuff when I was just hanging out and stuff. So it's not just like people just assume when you're Native like everything, it's like all this pan-Indian stuff, everything's going to be different. But it's like, I can definitely tell the difference between like, oh, this is like, I'm not going to insult you because your fry bread is not as fluffy as Navajo people, but like, I can tell.
I'm insulting you.
I'm not going to insult you when it's Bannock.
Oh my God. All right. So, which is funny. I mean, we were just teasing you about your 30K, I want to know more, or I want to hear from you, your perspective on TikTok fame. And then more importantly, and I saw this through your thread of your TikToks, is that you got to a point when I think you're still in that transition that you got burnt out. You had TikTok burnout. Can you elaborate on all that?
Yeah, definitely. Like TikTok burnout is definitely a thing. I mean, it's one of those things where like gaining a following and like, you know, like I'm pretty competitive, you know, so like I see, you know, I'm very like, oh man, to you know, like gaining a following is more important than making content is what it became for me. Is like, all right, I need to post every day. I need to do this. I'm like, why aren't people listening to what I want to post and everything? And it just got really frustrating. But like, I never thought about how it would affect me mentally, you know, like reading so many comments, but not only that, always being defensive. And it just felt really difficult to kind of always be like, because I felt like I got used, you know, like I felt like people were just tokenizing me like immediately after like, you know, like these posts about, you know, Deb Holland, you know, like I've like that one got like, you know, a couple million. So like to me, like seeing like people just like say like, you know, we stand with you, brother. And then at the same time, tell me like natives shouldn't be prioritized over other people because you guys had a treaty. Those things don't make sense. And it's like, you're just all lives matter kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, like which one is it? Because I only believe one thing right now. And I'm like, and I'll always be Native and Navajo. And I always speak up for my people and always from this land and everything like that. And at the same time, like, I'm not like, you can vote for whoever you want. Like my uncle and aunt are like big Trump supporters, and you know what I mean? It's not like, so they like argue with me and in all this stuff, and they do it specifically because, you know, they enjoy, it's like, you know, they do it for economic reasons. Like everything they say is for economic reasons. And the same thing with like, you know, the whole liberalism of, you know, us all being the same makes my identity and my love of my culture, you know, that is a threat to, you know, the whole, you know, blending us all together. Like I, you know, specifically, you know, saying like sovereign people, you know, that is like saying, you know, oh, that's a threat to our, unity.
Oh, they hate that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They hate that.
Exactly. So it's like, so for me, that's why I'm going back to Diné College is, you know, I see myself like in a situation where I want to do what I do for, you know, when I am helping people register to vote, if they can't speak and they only speak Diné, and I have to like rely on an interpreter versus some like knowing what I'm saying myself, you know, and knowing the words that I have. Cause I think that is, you know, that is important. Cause I've, you know, when I was with, you know, so I was doing this thing with voter registration. So for me, it's been, you know, it wasn't just, you know, like posting videos. Like I was on the reservation, you know, putting out flyers, making sure, you know, like State Line is like a res band, you know, it's like a
Yeah.
big res band out here, you know.
I miss them.
Yeah, see. So for me, it was like, yeah, like that's what I know, like that's my knowledge is and so like to make sure, you know, I'm planning a virtual concert with them, making sure, you know, like, you know, they're, with the audio streaming, making sure to promote this virtual concert with all these people around the Navajo Nation while they're in Phoenix. And, you know, we're all like, the companies are from Salt Lake. And then I'm over here, like trying to like throw up flyers around the res, driving around the res, like, and at the same time, it's like during COVID-19. So it's like, it's dangerous, you know, it's not just like I was out there. And what happened was like, it was fortunately like, it, like, you know, it started, you know, decreasing, and, you know, the Navajo Nation was off of lockdown mode. And so like, as I'm doing this and traveling around, you know, I hear that there's a spike again in one of the small town, and like my mom is worried about me. So I got to tell everybody like, oh, well, you know, what I was doing is I can't do that anymore because of what's going on with COVID-19. And I'm trying to take these precautions. And it's weird to be like a digital, like an influencer, especially being Diné, when, you know, getting a virus down and then being like, oh, I'd love to go get content and show you guys like around the reservation, around these areas, and just how cool it is. But we're in stay-at-home orders. Like, I don't want people to think that, I'm out there, you know, promoting these kind of like activities to go like, you guys should go outside and do all this stuff. It's like, no, man, like I'm going to make videos of me inside and being inside to show you that I am inside. And it's like, I put those thoughts into, you know, what I'm making. Cause it's like, I could go do that. I could do that. But like, I have a degree in public relations and in marketing and everything like that. I understand that, you know, communication, those are tools that we have. And if people see me doing these things, it could, you know, translate to and be misinterpreted. And that's what happens a lot of times is like what I see is misinterpreted. And so that's why for me, it's like kind of constantly telling people like what I'm making is for Native people, you know, like I know that like hurts your feelings because you want to be Native. But like, I know that, you know what I mean? There are hundreds of thousands of us. And if that's my audience, a few 100,000 people are enjoying what I'm making. That's a fuck ton of people. And I'm very proud to have that amount. I don't need millions of people to like follow me because they love me. I just want a lot of people to see me for being me and just existing within the 21st century as myself. And that way everybody else can just say, it's okay. You know, it's okay to exist within this world and still, you know, love my culture deeply and love my traditions deeply and not be able to speak my language, but at the same time be old enough to say, okay, like I can still reconnect at any age, even though like it's been scary, you know, it's been intimidating. It's one of those things where it's like, I mean, right now, like, that's why, like, I'm learning how to, you know, weave a Navajo rug. And, you know, that's something that's always been around. And I didn't realize, like, so many of my grandmas, like, they're weavers, you know, like I was like, oh, like that rug, not this one, but one of like, you know, one of these rugs around my house or something like that was made by like, you know, oh, this one was made by your great grandma when your Che came back from, you know, the Korean War. I'm like, what? Like, how did I not know this? And it's like really neat. And it's like, but then when you learn about like the loom and you learn about all these things and it's really cool to kind of like go to a tribal college and be able to like experience that in the 21st century and say like connect with all these like Dene folk, you know, using a computer and a laptop and like still have that connection. And I'm very fortunate that people have chosen me to, you know, follow and, you know, they think I'm funny and smart and like, you know, just do what I got to do. And it is like, TikTok fatigue is like, it's difficult. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to kind of like be told like what's, you know, like I'll post something that I think is funny, be that my friend made who's like, you know, a cis male. And I'm like, but then if I like, because he's wearing a wig and everything like that, all of a sudden I'm homophobic and I'm like, I'm gay. Like, how is that? Like, that doesn't make sense. And it's like, no, what about all the other gay people who you're not supporting, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is not okay. You can't really tell.
You can't really like win like one side or the other. It's always going to like collide and you're always going to get those type of like questions and stuff, those problems, you know?
Yeah. Like I said, I feel like that's the whole idea of getting tokenized, you know, I'm just being like, oh, our indigenous brother. And it's like, I don't know you.
How many times have you seen like people react to your videos and like, you know how like they do like side by side, kind of like a duet and they're like, okay.
I have to ignore those a lot. Honestly, like I honestly do. It gets really exhausting to like, especially like, you know, when I get a little and I talk about, you know, stolen land or get a little political, it immediately becomes like, you know, like one of the videos that I made was about, you know, how I think, you know, like people should be able to like celebrate Thanksgiving, like on natives, if they want to eat with their family and enjoy it, like it's fine. But also at the same time, like, yeah, you can learn the history, but like, don't put us on the front page and say every Native American hates Thanksgiving. And it's like, y'all, and it's like, I love my family. Y'all just chill. Like a lot of my family are veterans. Right. Like a lot of them fought in wars and stuff like that. Like you don't like, it's the fact that people signed, like, don't like, people sign, like there were enough like Navajo code talkers and like people who are, you know, in the military who signed up because they want to they want to. And it's like, so for so many people, and that's why people don't like, again, it becomes one or the other, or like, I'm also like not liked by a lot of land back res memes. Like I've definitely like seen some really mean things about me said, and I'm just like, fine, whatever guys, like do your thing. Like I'm not, you guys, like, if you can't like love like indigenous people and like you want to call like us names, if we, the fact that a lot of, people within the Bureau of Indian Affairs have been Native people. So that way we can represent ourselves and like really push, for our, treaties and holding that, holding those standards. It's very like, it's like, oh no, you're just colonized. You're just getting into the system, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I was like, you know how much work that is just to like hate me this much? You could like, because like, you know what I mean? Like this just feels like you're jealous of something that I'm like, I don't even think of you, but you want to like tag me and like say some really crazy things. And I'm just like, and it's like, and even yesterday I made, or was it yesterday? No, it was a couple days ago. I made this post on like TikTok and it was about, this guy just making like an Eskimo joke or something like that. And I like went off and I said, oh, like, okay, colonizer. And then like all these Bilaganas were all mad at me. And I was like, oh, okay, so you guys can make a sexual, innuendo about our culture. But as soon as I make something about you guys, that's about you get hurt and mad and call me racist. And I'm the one who's like, taking all the heat for this. And I guess like, so it's like, it's from both sides. And that's why it gets so exhausting. Cause it's like when I try to make content that is specifically for, again, like I make a lot of content for Native people and like these jokes and stuff like that. So I do have like a lot of people that I follow who I'm just like share a lot of friendships and like mutuals and stuff like that. I'm very fortunate that I'm able to do that. But it does get really exhausting to kind of like, like set boundaries and stuff. So like, and then like people just learn stuff about you. Like people just like make these assumptions of me and everything like that. And that's why a lot of it is like, I make sure like, I talk a lot of shit because it's like I become this wholesome content maker, like, oh, like I'm not Northern, or Notorious Cree, like I'm not just going to say, everybody's accepted if you're indigenous. No, dude, I'm going to tell you, like, I grew up poor and was told some really racist shit to my face. Like, right. I'm not going to like just sit here and just, do that. And like, I love him. I love James. He's cool as fuck. I love that dude. He's like, he's another person that I'm like, he sends me DMs really, he really encourages, what I do, especially just being myself. And like, and if you're really, I'm very grateful, and Shinova too, like, any big account that's a Native account, like they, we're in contact with each other. And at the same time, I get really mad if like Native content makers don't support other Native content makers. Right. If you're just talking about, if you're just talking about, oh, Native people, blah, 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 but you don't follow any other Native accounts, like, I get pissed. I'm just like, fuck you guys. Like you are just doing this as a show to like use your identity to like, but you're not here to like support content creators that are doing the same thing. Like we should all be, supporting each other. And like, that's why it's like, for me, I'm really about, like representation in a sense of, supporting and making sure, I love watching Natives succeed. Like I really do. Cause I know how difficult it is. Like it took me a long time to get the job that I had. And that was my dream job, to be able to go to events and travel around the United States and be able to just do that. And like, that's why I watch so many movies and TV and stuff like that. Cause like I would download all those things. And like, while I'm sitting in a plane, be able to just watch, all these series and stuff like that. And I'm like, most of the time I'm alone in a hotel. And so, be able to like do that. So, for me, it was getting people to ask these weird questions and like not assume that I've lived a life that's different than other people. And just like, it's so weird when people just assume that I like have never met a white person. Like that's the weirdest assumption. A lot of people assume that. Like,
when it's quite the opposite. You've never met Navajo or people.
I was just about to transition. I was going to ask Marie if she could. I think Marie had a question that she wanted to ask you. So
And well, I believe you touched on this quite a bit, but when on your TikTok, when was the point that you sort of were started to make those boundaries and not be like the Navajo Google or the native Google? Was it something that you had to like intentionally do, or was something that you kind of just had in mind when you started out?
It's not something I intentionally did. I just kind of like, it was just my comments got literally like, I would just be like, like I would make a snarky comment to these people. And like, cause it happened a lot. It was a lot of hippies. Like, honestly, like a lot of hippies would seek me out and try to like ask me like questions about spirituality. And I'd be like, nah, bro, that's stupid. And then it'd be like, well, you're not sharing, you're gatekeeping. And it's like, yo, like, I don't care. And then
how dare you?
Yeah. And so, yeah. And then like a lot of my old videos and stuff were like responses and stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm running hoteps and they're their own thing. You know, that's one of the things that I'm just like, I didn't realize you guys were so awful. Like, I don't know what to say. You guys are so awful. Like, you guys said some of the worst erasure kind of shit that I've ever seen in my comments, and I've blocked so many of these people. And I'm like, and then you look at like hashtags, and you're like, oh, you're just hijacking our hashtags and then using like spamming all this purposely to erase us. It's like, you know, it's targeted. And if we talk about that, we're anti-black. And it's like, oh, well, what is it? Like, I can't be pro-native because I am like, my parents are native and like their parents are native and their parents before them were native Navajo. Like, I don't know. And I'm just like, it's hard. It's really, really hard, you know? And it's like, yeah. And they just people will never get it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people just never get it. And I'm just like, but I think it's like the more and the more we say that, the more people are getting it, you know? And like, I've noticed that, you know, I've definitely noticed that where now it's like, I don't even have to say shit. People in my comments, like, my followers are pretty legit, you know. I got some,
they'll stick up for you and stuff.
Yeah, I got some stans, you know, that love me, and they're like, you know, yeah. And I'll just like, you know what I mean? Like, somebody will say some comment, and I'll just like, I don't even have to like, you know, I'm very really into like, if you go, you know, your inbox or whatever, that white page or whatever, when you have like, you know, just deleting comments that are just negative and just not looking at it, you know. Like, I'm very, at this point, this is where I'm at, where if somebody is like, you know, saying things that I don't want to hear, I'll delete the comment. I don't need the algorithm to start bringing other people who think like this into my, you know, world. Like, I've created this world that is, you know, Navabroisss, all the, you know, on my own. Like, I created what, like the messages that I want to say and everything like that. And if you don't get it, you don't get it. And it's like, and I'm not here to, you know, make you comfortable, because that's what people want, you know. And I'm just like, I'm just being me. Like, you guys aren't, you're like, because that's what it is. People are trying to shape me and like asking these questions. And at first it was really fun, you know, like people were asking me for these things, and then like, so I realized it's like one person, you know. It's not like 200,000 people want to see my, you know, stuff, you know. It's like people want to laugh and be me. And like, I've definitely lost a lot of followers when I, you know, because sometimes, like, again, I'll get tokenized. Like, it'll just end up like, you know, the Thanksgiving post that I made, like, that ended up on conservative TikTok, and it got like, you know, everybody with a Blue Lives Matter American flag were just like, libs, and I'm like, oh my god, comments off. Like, I don't know how you guys got here. And then it just yeah, exactly. And then I made the Deb Holland post, and that became like this political thing of like, you guys don't, what have the libs ever done for you? And blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, this is a big deal for Native people, but you go ahead and like, and also it got really racist too. So I'm just like, what? And it's one of those things where like, eventually it gets to that point where I just like ignore comments, ignore stuff. But I do, like, I love my audience. I appreciate everybody who takes time to like engage with me, because like, a lot of people uplift me. Like, it's hard. Like you said, like the burnout, like you said, you saw it in like the amount of people who've reached out to make sure I'm okay is really great, you know, like, cause I think people saw me taking those breaks, taking like that time away from, you know, especially like as we got closer to inauguration and everything like that. And I was just, but it was like, like I just kind of, I needed to get over myself, I think I just thought because I had such a following, like I was owed, the views. I was owed this, but I'm like, you know what? There are more people on this app than there were before. Like I made an impact on this app when the president was trying to ban it and stuff and everything. So I was in that kind of world where it was, getting crazy. And like, I was able to, be one of the native content makers. And now there's more people and I gotta, that'll push.
You were native TikTok before native TikTok.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I think native TikTok hates me. Like the hashtag Twitter, the hashtag, not native TikTok, but like the follow. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like the people who follow that for like the traditions and like the thing, but don't follow it because they're native. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't think they appreciate me not talking about it because there are like things where I notice when I put like the hashtag in, some like it'll take like my views won't be so sometimes it's just weird. Again, it's like that's me like, nowadays I really do want to like, same thing like where I see my content on TikTok is, PG-13, like I want something that teenage Isaac would watch. Like I'm not making this content for some old white lady who loves squash blossoms. Like I'm making this for, some gay 14-year-old Navajo in Cayenne. So like that guy who didn't have anybody to look up to. That's who I make my videos for. I'm here to make that guy laugh. If I can make that guy laugh, I'm doing my job. And that guy is just me, so I'm being me for somebody that I would have wanted to look up to. And that's what I want my page to look like. And it does get hard,
Where you are truly being your authentic. You're truly being your authentic self. Before we wrap up, though, John, if you want to go ahead and give us our last question of the day for Isaac, that'd be awesome.
All right. So this one. All right. So which famous activists do you look up to? It can be anyone, any famous political activist, or specifically native, I guess.
Famous political activist. I mean, there are a lot. I mean, for me, I really like Natani Means. Like he's pretty cool. Like, like he's just every time I see him, he's like, he's rapping and he's just like same thing. Like he grew up in like on the reservations and he's always like out there, being amongst the native youth, but at the same time, like he checks people. He makes sure like other natives, like you can't just like talk about native issues if you're not going to be like on the front lines and making sure you're like pushing those boundaries as well. Cause because you're just, taking the credit from these folks. And I appreciate that kind of stuff. And, he's younger than me and it's, I learned a lot from like his lyrics and stuff. And he is like, like Russell Means, is Russell Means' son and he's Tatanka Means' his brother. But for me, like, following him on Instagram, like it's cool because when the pandemic started, they started doing on their Instagrams like showcasing other native talents and stuff, and so which is really cool. Like I really appreciate that where it's like now it's like so many there's a lot of blending of like just native support throughout the United States and being able to do that. So I mean, like I said, he's younger than me, somebody that I've never met, and he's like he comes from the same community that I come from, and I just think that's really that's really cool and all this stuff. And Lynn Nessifer, Dr. Lynn Nessifer, if you guys haven't met him or like read it, like follow him on Instagram, like he's a guy from Natives Outdoors, and for me, I was working at this company, and I was one of the only native people in the outdoor industry, especially like in a higher level, like working in marketing. So I'd be at the, outdoor retailer, which is, where like Merrill, Black Diamond, like all the big, REI, that's where they shop and stuff. So it's like everybody has all the setup and it's in Denver. And so, you know, like I was there with our company and, you know, like he was giving speeches and stuff. And this is like about Bears Ears, about these kind of things. So like for me, like Len Nassiffer has just always been somebody that I, you know, we share a lot of the same thoughts, but he's also worked in the Department of Energy. And you know, he's the one who's like been able to like really push about like using a sense of humor and like using, you know, like making memes about, you know, political memes from an indigenous perspective, and like, you know, about how like the land is also something that, you know, having land stewards and indigenous people. He's somebody that I'm just like, I'm really like, that's really cool. Like you have you have a doctorate in engineering and you're still out here, you know, pushing, like talking about Native issues. And, you know, I just think he's really cool. And I'm very fortunate to like be able to know him and, you know, do that stuff. So I'm just, yeah. And like, you know, there are the classics, Winona LaDuke and like, you know, and yeah. So like, and I mean, Angela Davis, you know, like, you know, seeing people like that, Nina Simone, you know, if you haven't seen Whatever Happened to Nina Simone, that's a documentary I would definitely recommend. I mean, she used her voice as a Black activist and she like had a great career and continued to push forward, you know what I mean? And push forward that kind of stuff. And so to have people like Martin Luther King, and I read all his speeches still, and I'm like, I'm not somebody who understands Christianity, but to have somebody like him, like, talk about, you know, blend Christianity with, you know, moving forward in, you know, civil rights. It's really, you know, fascinating. And there's so many people who want us to vote and want us to, you know, and listen to Stacey Abrams' speech. You know, I don't know if you guys listen to, you know, the rebuttal from Democratic, you know, convention when she first gave her speech after she lost the governor race. I mean, her saying, you know, like, you know, voter suppression is real, gerrymandering is real. It's like, that was like, yes, you know, like knowing what that happens to Native communities was really important to like me to know and like me to like express, especially because, you know, I come from a family who still like, you know, worked in Monument Valley, Utah. And like, I still have family in that area and like Oljeto and stuff. So a lot of that area is, you know, when you come from Navajo, it's like you have to have a PO box. And so when voter suppression was happening in North Dakota, you know, with tribes out there, you're just like, that's not right. You know, like that's the community. Like I recognize that because that's happening and it's still happening. And people just have this assumption that the civil rights ended with Martin Luther King. And then all of a sudden, like racism ended with Obama. It's like, nah, bro. Like all
racism ended with Biden.
No, it's
not ended.
Oh, and sexism is over now too.
Yeah, sexism is over. It's like, it's just, it's very, yeah. It's like, I know it gets overwhelming, but you know, I have a lot of experience. You know, I've definitely like being among people. You know, being among the Biliganas for, you know, a big majority of my life, traveling around and just, you know, having conversations has, you know, being able to like have those uncomfortable conversations when we're on the road or like when they're like, because I've definitely always been asked weird questions, just like, you know, I'm standing in my booth, you know, with my samples of my sports nutrition. And then like, you know, they're like, oh, so I heard this, is it true? And I'm like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like, if we're having a conversation, but if it's like some random stranger, like at the gas station that wants to tell me like, oh, I'm Cherokee, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, what? Like, dude, like I am getting a Pepsi. Calm your. I don't know what to tell you here.
You know the answer to that question.
Isaac, friend, we could talk to you literally all day, but in my southern realm, let us let you go.
Yeah.
No, because we don't want to hold you, and we'll definitely be calling you back. But before you go, let us know where your person, the people who are not your 30,000 original, let them know where they can find you and what you're doing now.
If you're not one of my 200,000 followers,
Flex.
I'm just kidding. But no, it's only 227. But almost like you can find me on TikTok, just Navabroisss. So it's NAVABROISSSS. And you can also find me on Instagram at Navabroisss, NAVABROISSSS. And if that's too much for you to remember the too many S's, just type in Navabro.com. Just type in Navabro into any search engine and I'll pop up.
Sweet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And if you listen to Spotify or any podcasts, I have 3 episodes of my podcast at Navabro. It's on there. I'll be working on a new podcast coming out. So I have my own podcast, but I'll also be working. I have some things in the work. I have some things in the work with some other folks coming up. So we'll see what happens on that one. But yeah, Navabro.com would probably be the best way to find me and everything like that, because then it links to my Instagram and TikTok, and also it has a link to Natives Outdoors and Rural Utah Project if you want to learn about what I've done with the work with them and everything like that. So if you haven't checked out Natives Outdoors, like, I'm not an ambassador, but I really appreciate the work that is from those guys, because they're so cool. Like, all the ambassadors there, I've learned so much from all of them. And I'm just like, all the ambassadors are just, I appreciate, land stewards who are also activists, who are also love just being outside, because there's so many natives who just don't like to go outside anymore.
Well, Isaac, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Isaac Iwahot, and from all of us, man. We'll hopefully we can talk to you again.
Yeah, hug on it.
Wasn't that an awesome interview, guys?
I loved it. I totally loved it. And the crazy thing about it is, I think we probably could have talked to him for 3 hours.
I could have kept him all day and continued to ask him questions. Just fascinating human.
Yeah. And he's like, so full of knowledge, and I didn't really know he knew that much. I mean, yeah, it sounds bad, but I don't mean it in a bad way, but you know what I mean?
No, I get you. Yeah. I think you have certain expectations of someone, and he completely exceeded it.
Yeah, I appreciate, because, some TikTokers lean more towards the traditional stuff, and some TikTokers lean more towards the contemporary. And I like his ability to, just be who he is, just be a full, well-rounded human. And part of being a full, well-rounded human is we watch a lot of TV over here. So we're going to talk about this segment, What Are We Watching? Which is the smoothest transition I could possibly get out of this segment. So I'm going to turn to you, Kenrick. Kenrick, what are you watching?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've been watching a lot of stuff, First things first, though, obviously we're pre-recording. So last night I watched the Conor McGregor fight. Fight, man, it's so hard to see your heroes, not win, and Conor didn't win last night, but he took it like a real champion, though, and I love that. He accepted it. Some people have denial base, when they lose, but oh wait, do we know someone like that? But anyway. He literally got knocked out, but he said, hey, things happen, and all I'm gonna do is pick myself back up. But other than that, I've been watching all the Harry Potter series with my daughters, which was great. I loved reliving all that again and watching it, because, when you think of certain genres of movies and you try to determine what are the best movies out there in regards to history and do they have legs, Harry Potter still has legs. You still talk about Harry Potter, and in the TikTok world, Harry Potter's huge right now. People talk about Dobby all the time, and everyone's in love with Slytherin and Draco.
Do you know your house?
My house?
Sir? Yeah.
I'm Hufflepuff. No,
I don't believe it. But
I don't. And if I said that wrong, I mean, I have no idea. All I know is like my girls, they tease our youngest daughter because she's like, oh, I'm so pro Slytherin, Draco. And she's never really watched the movies or read the books. She's just what they call her a TikTok poser, poor thing. No, yeah, but no, I mean, I've been watching all the Harry Potters and I actually, being able to watch them in a full sequence got me to, I'm sorry, spoilers. I don't know if we're still free of that, but
Wait. Spoiler for a series that ended 10 years ago. Continue.
No kidding.
Like, I love the whole arc, not of Harry Potter, but the whole arc of Professor Snape. Professor Snape's arc is so good in Harry Potter, especially, and I'm talking from the movie aspect. I'm pretty sure it's even like more amazing in the book.
You haven't read the books?
Me, no.
Kenrick, don't read.
No.
Can I just add in something?
Yeah, feel free.
I've honestly never seen the movies too much, and I've never read the books.
Bruh.
So you think like Marie's like, Kenrick, how dare you? You never read the books. I've never really gotten into the series of Harry Potter, honestly.
Yeah, see?
Okay, so we're gonna move on now.
I'm sorry, guys, from our listeners, the shock on my face. I'm a Potterhead.
You're a hair.
Very, very, very I love Harry Potter, and I'm a Gryffindor.
Hey,
so
that's like people saying like, I've never seen a Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's weird. But, but there's people, they're not my people, but
Marie, what are you watching? Since we're over here anyway.
Well, this is a series that started a few years back as well as Troll Hunters. I love Troll Hunters. So it's an animated series set in Arcadia. And I'm not going to go too far into it because of spoilers, but it's aimed towards kids, right? And I don't have kids, but my dad and I can binge watch this, and the humor in it, they're just fun. They're hilarious. So if you want to watch something with your kids, it doesn't necessarily have to be with your kids, but Troll Hunters all the way. I love it. It's so cool.
Oh my goodness. So John, the non-Harry Potter man in the group, what are you watching?
So I watched this movie on Netflix. It's called Eurovision Song Contest. The story of Fire Saga. And I was kind of paying attention here and there, but from what I've got was like there's these two friends who come from a small town in Iceland, wasn't it? Yeah. And so they go in a contest, or they have to go in a contest with all these other I guess countries from the European countries, and it's kind of like American Idol and UK Idol or whatever.
Those shows that Brittany watches.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that. And they at the end they get like a grand prize of what was the grand prize? I know you've seen it at Kenrick. I kind of paid attention here and there.
Yeah, it's like a cash prize, and then they're able to have an album. They'll put together an album for them.
But who's in that?
Is it a reality show?
No, it's not a reality show. It's a movie.
It's a Will Ferrell movie
with Rachel McAdams and I didn't.
It's so funny.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So I thought the cool thing was like they added in like all the previous actual contest people. They put them in within the movie. So there's like I think there's like specific scenes like the party scene.
Hold up. This is real.
This is real.
No, it's not real, but they add in like the previous contendant. How do you say that? But anyways, the previous people who were actually on like those shows, they brought them in. You know what I mean?
Oh, so like they pulled from different other shows and would like bring them in to pretend to be Eurovision.
Yeah, now I'm more curious now.
Yeah, I'm not a Will Ferrell fan.
Yeah.
And I think he plays the same exact character in every movie, and I don't like his character. But this is now sounding more interesting to me.
Shock Pikachu face. I'm very disappointed in John and Brittany tonight.
Yeah, what have we learned? No Harry Potter, and I hate Will Ferrell.
I don't hate him. I just dislike the character that he plays in every movie, ever.
Yeah.
And this is the lady who watches The Masked Singer.
And the masked dancer.
And the masked dancer. What if he's one of your masked dancers?
It's funny though. I will admit it's on Netflix, and you know what? What I will say, it's not Will Ferrell in his prime, but it's like so.
Look, and I may like it.
It's a fairly okay movie.
So stupid. It's funny. Like that's the way I took it.
So it's kind of like a 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. It's not like the best movie. It's just kind of like if you want to flip it on and see what it is, then totally watch it. But like I would give it like maybe a 6 out of 10. I still enjoyed it though.
Okay, Brittany. So what are you watching?
I just finished the missions. If you're into Harry Potter and Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings / pretty much any fantasy YA novel-y kind of thing, you'll like this because it's that, but older, much older. So you have this, and this is like season 4, so we're in this a while. But you have people who are naturally magic and they don't have magic, don't really find out until they're like in grad school. And what I did find out is that they upped the age because of some of the things that they cut. They go in some really dark places, and they have some really. They deal with drugs, alcohol, sex, rape, all the wonderful things in life that we love. But because it's fantasy, I can watch it.
God, I was like, okay.
But there's a magical world called Filler that they've just in season 1 they're like, wait, this place is real. It's kind of like finding out Narnia from the Chronicles of Narnia was real, and that the book series that was written about it was actually based on real events, and then it takes a dark turn into pedophilia. But we won't go into that. It is really interesting, fascinating, and enjoyable.
I love how casual you are about it.
Yeah, actually, I only watch it on Netflix is because I don't get the channel that actually makes it, which I think is Sci-Fi. It's a sci-fi show.
I don't know. I kind of feel uncomfortable at this point. I just don't know. All right. Well, hell, that's what we've been watching.
You know what? Let's just take your discomfort, twist that around, and talk about our last segment where we close the show. What is making us happy?
John, what's making you happy, brother?
All right. So for the past few weeks or months, I guess you could say, I've been reading these 2 books, and it's all based on like Navajo stories and like just the creation of how everything was made. And the specific parts that I like about it too is just like it talks about the twin warriors. There's 2 of them, and I forget the name. Their names are kind of hard to say in Navajo, but they're 2 siblings, and they go off and fight like these monsters that were created. I won't get into specifics. I guess that's made for a different time. But I was always fascinated by the Navajo twin warrior stories, and my grandparents always used to tell me those stories a long time ago. So it's really it's something to definitely read about. So I would totally recommend reading about those types of things in these books, So, yeah. And this one, I'm kind of barely indenting, inside of the book. So anyways, yeah.
No, that's cool. I mean, I myself, like throughout my life, I've loved like researching and learning more about like the creation story of my people and kind of just reconnecting to that. So I definitely can see where you could just take a deep dive into knowing, especially, come on, the Dene culture. I mean, so vast.
Yeah.
I'm like jealous. It's so vast.
Yeah. And it's crazy because there's like so many stories about how everything was created. Like, let's just say how pottery was made, and yeah, it dives into that specific of how the pottery was made and stuff, just things like that.
Very cool.
So Marie, besides Harry Potter and Cobra Kai and little baby Yoda, what's making you happy?
So no one warned me about what you get excited about when you're an adult. And so I don't know how well you know me, but my favorite color is pink. And everything in my house is slowly morphing into pink. One thing I could not find was a pink broom. Well, you guys, I have my pink broom. And it's important to know that as an adult, the child side of me is excited about the pink. The adult side of me is excited that I have a new broom. So to all our younger listeners, this is what you have to look forward to.
Pink brooms, reading books. What about you, Kenrick? What's making you happy?
I'm just saying, like, yeah, this is what you have to look forward to. It's called the 30s. Like when you turn 30, like John's like, wait, what? I
mean, he even yawned at it.
What's making me happy? It's been making me happy for quite some time. It's just, I'm a dad, so spending time with my family is very important to me. And during this winter, especially during the holidays, I've been able to spend a lot of time with my daughters, and watching them grow into these little women is so amazing because I like me and their mom, we can't take that credit on who they're becoming. We just can't, at least I won't. I mean, they're so progressive, and like the way they think blows my mind. Like we had a whole conversation because like my daughters wanted to like interrogate me and want to know like, where's your stance on pronouns? What's your stance on women equality? What's your stance on, they were just going. And I was like, for a minute there, I was like, am I talking to Brittany?
No, are you talking to yourself?
No. And here's the thing though. It was really assuring to me that my kids have a good head on their shoulders. And they're very protective about protecting other people and their feelings and how people live their lives. And so they were wanting to get to know me more. Like, was there an area for me to disrespect that space? And like, I had to reassure them that no, I'm totally in agreement with the way you think. And I'm blown away that you're even asking me these questions. So, man, just don't disregard your kids and how they think, man. These guys are amazing, and I love them. And unfortunately, I had to see my girls go. They had to, they visit me, and because they live with their mom, and that's what's just making me happy, spending time with those damn amazing girls, and I'm happy to be their dad.
That's so sweet.
Can you be my dad?
I'm old enough.
Oh my God.
I think he might be, He's definitely the dad of the podcast.
Yeah. I am a podcast man. Is that right, Brittany?
Mr. Podcast Man?
Mr. Podcast Man.
Little podcast man.
Little pop.
Like little big man, little podcast man. I love it. I love it so much.
Don't start. We're going to hear it. I'm going to hear it on TikTok. Someone's going to call me little podcast man. It's going to happen.
Everybody in YouTube, comment that right now.
Hashtag it. We're going to put it all over.
My next post, I'm going to put little podcast man.
Yeah, you should.
Own it before it becomes a thing.
I know.
Yeah.
I was ahead of the curve.
And I can tell you really and truly and honestly, what makes me happy is hanging out with you guys, and not just you, our virtual audience who listen to us whenever you listen to it, but actually the three of you, y'all make my day. I just get so happy and excited for Sundays and being able to listen to y'all and hear what's happening and talk to adults, semi-adults, quasi-adults, adultish.
Kind of.
I was like, who were you talking to?
So that actually
space to do that, an adult indigenous space. It's very nice.
And I do like that when we do have conversations and stuff, it's not necessarily that we have to come to this point of, okay, all the wrong Indians agree. It's more of a, I respect, what you're saying and respect what you're thinking. And this is what I think. And you respect what I'm thinking. And I really, those spaces are more needed. We need more spaces for hard conversations or, multifaceted conversations that don't end in, well, I'm glad you think that way. Yeah. So, or things like that. So.
Well, no, I agree with you because it's like Indian country in a whole. Like, we're not just one thing. We're not a monolith. We all don't think the same. We all don't have the same beliefs and religions and all that. So, yeah, I mean, this show represents what Indian country, truly is. We all have our own opinions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And with that said, we'd like to thank you for listening to the Wrong Indian Podcast. Make sure that you like the video, like the thing, rate us 5 stars. Yeah, rate us 5 stars. I said 5 stars.
I'm all in now. I'm all in. Season 2, I was like, I'm okay with 1 star. No. I'm all in. Let's get those 5.
We want to be moved up. We want to move up the algorithm. So, thank you so much.
Stars, we'll give you 5 cookies. Just kidding.
I'm not making that promise.
I'm kidding.
That was his elementary speech for like school president. Yeah. There you go. You get a cookie.
I bribed them all with
Jonathan
cookies.
Nez. Hey, okay.
Yep.
I was going to subscribe for more. And let us know who else should we interview. This interview was great. So let us know who else we should interview in the comments. Make sure to also subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to Wrong Indian Podcast channel. Things are happening over there too. So
we're everywhere. WrongIndianPodcast.com. You can see us on Instagram at Wrong Indian. We're at Facebook at the Wrong Indian Podcast. We're Twitter at Wrong Indian. We're everywhere that is Wrong Indian. This is the Wrong Indian Podcast, Season 3, Episode 1. We just spoke to Isaac Madson. Isaac was amazing.
Yes, he was.
Yep.
This is going to be awesome. Season 3 is going to be dope.
all right. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I left the Twitter handle on.
Good.
Later, guys. Wrong Indian Podcast.
Sweet.